This program is intended for mature audiences. Parental discretion is advised.
Oh, hello, everybody. I didn't see you there. Welcome to the Pop Culture Podcast. Our guest this week is Joel C. Inden, a real estate agent and a filmmaker. How the heck does that work?
Poorly. No, it's I thank you for having me, by the way. I appreciate it, and good to see you guys. Boy, it's a rather open-ended question. Sorry. I should have taken notes on myself, but I get
to the hard-hitting questions right.
That's right out of the gate. You hit me between the eyes. Jeez.
You actually have a film degree.
I do. Yes. Thanks. I like most kids, I'm 49. I grew up early 70s, late 80s, and like a lot of kids, we were plunked in front of the TV. And back then, when we had 4 channels, all of them on a really old big tube television, I got to see a lot of old movies, and ultimately, I'm going to skip through some of my life story and just say that a crazy uncle took me out to lunch one day and said, "Joel, if you could be successful at one thing and know that you would be happy and successful, what would it be?" And like a crazy man, I said, filmmaking. I'm the son of a doctor and a nurse, no ties to motion pictures whatsoever. And he said, well, maybe take a couple of classes in that, see if you like it. And then if you do, maybe you should go to film school. And sure enough, that's what happened. So I wound up going to Columbia College, graduating from there. And then I moved out to LA for 10 years and worked all around Hollywood, behind the scenes and low level type stuff. And it was great. Every day I got to see stuff that every day you think, that's it. Take me now. You can't top this. And then the next day I'd see something else. And it was like, that's the most incredible thing I've ever seen. Mm-hmm. Take me now. That's it. And while that's exciting, believe it or not, it is still a job, and it is stressful. And my whole goal was to go out to LA, become rich and famous, just like the Muppets, and then move back to Wisconsin. And anybody who wanted me to work for them had to come visit me in my future compound here in Wisconsin and beg me to work for them. But part of that came true, in that I ultimately moved back to Wisconsin. I had a tough time in Los Angeles. Just the city was tough to deal with. I mean, you love the work, and the city is a very different thing. So the traffic, whatever, and not to be negative, I missed Wisconsin for whatever reason. I was, aside from being born here, for whatever reason, it just draws me. I love it here.
I've been asking my wife for 20 years now to move to LA. Every 6 months, I say, "Are you ready to move yet?" Nope. She's not ready to move. Something about good schools, the kids are happy, whatever.
Let's just run down the list. No earthquakes, no fires, no drought, no flooding, relatively little crime compared to LA. Taxes, you may bitch and whine about taxes. Wait till you get to Los Angeles. They've taken it to an art form. And I'm not a big anti-tax guy. So when you get me to say taxes are a bit high, you've accomplished something.
No winter. That's all that I want.
Yeah,
no winter.
Yeah.
I can't stand winter anymore.
You're right. But you go 2 years without a drop of rain, and then it mists. And I remember I got out there. It was October of 1996, I think it was. Might have been 97. Anyway, it was right before Thanksgiving. That's what I remember. And it misted for 5 days. And I mean, literally the finest mist you've ever seen. And I turned on the radio, and one of the DJs there was said, started shouting, "Why has our God forsaken us? Build the ark!" You know, they thought it was they were going to have flooding, and everybody's sliding into each other because the oil came up from the asphalt, and it was like, for them, it was like our driving in snow. Only there, it's just oil on asphalt. So anyway, it's there's a lot of nice things about California. I can't deny it. If you can imagine doing it, you can find a club, an association, something in Los Angeles that's just incredible. When I was out there, I picked up Japanese fencing. It's called kendo. I mean, you know, big Japanese community out there. And of course, filmmaking is unbelievable, because you can be sitting at lunch at McDonald's or wherever out there, it's In and Out, but you can be sitting there, and all of a sudden you overhear somebody say something, and you may never have learned that even in film school. You couldn't pay thousands of dollars to learn what you just overheard at lunch. It can be that amazing, and people really do start careers there. And I right out of the gate, I'll share a story that I was sitting at In and Out. I had been there all of like a month, and I needed work. I had moved out there fresh off the boat from Wisconsin, and I'm sitting next to a couple of guys. I hear them talk about this little movie with Jodie Foster called Contact. You know, it's going to be some neat sci-fi thing, kind of more of a realistic take on a sci-fi movie. And I just happened to pipe in something, I don't know what it was. And they said, "Oh, where are you from?" They obviously knew I wasn't from around there. Mm-hmm. I said, "Oh, Wisconsin." And they both kind of went wide-eyed and said, "Really? You're from Wisconsin?" I'm like, "Yeah." Why? Well, I hear you guys have good work ethic, you know? I said, yeah, we do typically. And you want to come work on this movie with us? And I'm like, yeah. What are you talking about? It's like, well, we need grips. We need grips to come in. Thanks, guys. I appreciate it, but that's not my thing. I want to be a cinematographer. And it's like, only Joel passes up an opportunity to launch his career on Contact, and over burgers, you know, because I wanted to be a cinematographer, which I did, but I had no idea this was how you start a career. You know, this is how. Yep. Anyway, whatever.
Yeah, you know, I've got some friends from Milwaukee, Wisconsin. You know, Robbie McBride is a friend. He moved to LA 5 years ago. Yeah. He's doing really well now. You know, he's been a lot of done a lot of background acting work. Uh-huh. Well, he was in The Mandalorian. He's been in a lot of big things, but you know, it's possible. You know, you got to start small. You got to start at the very bottom. You know, be a grip. You know, be a production assistant. Do anything. You just get your foot in the door.
Yeah. It's if that's the path that presents itself. Yeah. Otherwise, if you really want to do your own thing, there is no better time than today to be a filmmaker. In the entire pantheon of film history, today is the greatest day of your life if you want to be a filmmaker, because
it's never been easier.
It's never been easier and cheaper ever. I mean, the fact that, what was it? I think it was 5 years ago now. Some guys made a feature film inside of an airport with their iPhone. So what was that? I can't remember the name of it, but how? What are you talking about? That's not possible. Oh yeah, they were stuck on a layover that got extended a day, so they just shot this thing, and it's like, that's not possible, and it is. It's totally possible. Oh, yeah. Our phones are so powerful, and we use them to look up cat videos. You know,
anyway. And other videos.
Well, I don't know what you're talking about. I only watch cat videos. So
cat videos.
Yep. Right. Yeah.
Is that what we call them nowadays?
So let me ask you, what would you do if you get out to Los Angeles? Let's say, you know, your wife is packing your truck as we speak, and she says, "Get in the truck or we're not going," you know, and then you get out there. What would you do?
Oh, I would connect with some friends. Got a lot of friends out there. See what kind of work I can get. I'd take anything. I'd start small.
Sure.
I'd be a production assistant. I would do anything.
So what's your end goal then?
End goal, I'd like to produce. I'm more in the producing nowadays.
Gotcha. Yeah, I thought that's what your main focus was. And I will tell you, you can be a producer right here. I'm not poo-pooing your dream of going to LA. If you really want to go, certainly go. But like I said, you can be a producer anywhere. And if you're here,
That's a deep question.
Yes, it is.
What do you guys?
Because they have robot actors now.
Yeah.
That's amazing. Basically, she's well. There are times when I feel like computers are already smarter than us. But man, oh man,
we were talking about that. I think we were talking about Elon Musk on a radio show not long ago that he's scared of AI. If Elon Musk is scared of something, that's something to take notice of.
You don't want to have in mind, because if that dude is like terrified of something, we should be soiling our pants.
Yeah.
That is
notice.
If this guy can create his own rockets and he's upset, yeah. I've always postulated that Elon Musk would be the greatest Bond villain of all time. So he's basically like one bad breakup with a girl, and we're all dead. That's it.
Yeah, he's our Lex Luthor.
She dumps him on Thursday, and by Friday, there's it's Moonraker. Just he launches some super virus from space, and that's it.
Well, didn't one tweet just end the Bitcoin current or the currency? He just ended that. He says, no, we're no longer accepting Bitcoin for Tesla cars because it's bad for the environment, and the stock market went through.
Yeah. And that would be the bull run he started. So he started it and then killed it off. So he did say, though, however, he's not selling his Bitcoin, which I think got lost in the message there. I think, the fact that he's going to keep it and continue to do some business with it is impressive. But anyway, yeah, that guy. Yeah, I love that guy. I am never going to get tired of that guy. That guy, especially when he launched that car into space, I was just like, you know what? Give him the free license to hunt human beings. I don't care. Just keep him creating stuff that just makes my jaw drop.
Did you watch him on Saturday Night Live this past week?
I missed.
He was pretty good.
I watched it. It was pretty good.
Yeah. Nice. And a lot of cast members were upset that he was hosting. They were like going to boycott or whatever. But of course, none of them sat out the show. And they didn't want to sacrifice their screen time. So they weren't.
Their artistic integrity was at stake. Yeah. Whatever that means.
Yeah.
I don't get why they don't love him.
I don't either.
I don't know. Controversial opinions.
Yeah.
I don't know. But you've got a documentary that you've been working on for a while. Why don't you explain that?
Oh my God. Yeah. No, this is an idea I have been working on for about 10 years. I'm embarrassed to say it's taken this long, but like so many things, when you have a pet project, especially documentaries, they sometimes get put on the back burner just because they have to. But
that's that hard working Wisconsin ethic we got.
Well, yeah, I out in LA, you can live under a bridge and produce a documentary. Out here, you can't do that. You will be dead in the wintertime. So I like living, and I like a warm house. So, but yeah, I this whole thing started with a personal event that I had come out of a fast food joint, and I was 24, I think, at the time. And
you ate a lot of fast food, sir.
Yeah. Oh, that's embarrassing too. Thanks. Yeah. No.
Every story starts with you at a fast food place.
Yeah. I hadn't realized that, but you're right. Yeah. But I had come out of this place, and I had my lunch in one hand, and I'm walking to my horrible car in Los Angeles. I'd only been there about 6 months, and all of a sudden from behind me, I hear a female voice say, "Excuse me, sir." And in my head, I kind of laughed and said, "Some old guy just got called sir." And then I realized there was nobody else in the parking lot. And how that is, I have no idea. It was lunchtime. So, I heard it again. And I turned around, and the strangest thing happened. And it didn't happen to me before. It's never happened since. I don't do drugs. But for lack of a better term, I got this tunnel vision. And if I could somehow make this work on this camera, the entire world went away. Oops, other way. Wait, where am I going? The entire world went away, and the only thing I saw was this pair of eyes, and they were lovely. And as my vision started to come back, I could see this is a girl about 15, 16. And again, she was lovely, and I don't mean that in a crude or inappropriate way. She just was like the girl next door, and she had longer, kind of reddish brown hair, and my vision just kept coming back. I mean, she was a good 15 feet away from me. So how my whole vision went down to just her eyes and then slowly came back is beyond me. And the interesting thing about this was that as I got my vision back further and further, I could see her blue jeans, and they were blue at the waist. And by about the time they got down to mid-thigh, they were pitch black. And then I noticed that her face was dirty. And she says, again, "Excuse me, sir, but my mom and I," and she turns and points, and she points to a woman at the back corner of this building. She could have been 35. She could have been 65. This woman looked rough. And again, I don't mean that in an inappropriate way. What I mean is she was emaciated. She was wrinkled. I couldn't tell how old she was. And it was just a bad scene. And here's this lovely girl, and her mom is there. And anyway, she says, "Excuse me, my mom and I have been homeless for the last 6 months. Could you spare any money for food?" And my jaw just hit the floor. I couldn't believe what I was seeing. This girl should be in school, I literally just couldn't speak. I was so stunned. And I pulled out, I'd spent like $14 and change on my lunch, and I pulled out the change from my 20 and I handed it to her. So I don't know, was it $5 and change? And she said thank you and turned and walked away. And I watched her get back to her mom and kind of show her the money I gave her. And I turned back to my car, and I put my lunch in, and I quick glanced back, and they were gone. And I have no idea where the hell they went, but they were just gone. And so I don't know. Maybe they were able to run around the back of the house, back of the building. I don't know. I don't think they were going to be moving that fast. But I got in my car, and I was so angry at myself and the situation and that mom, and I was just effing livid. So the whole ride back to where I was working, I was at the top of my lungs, just cursing up a storm. I have never been so mad and so loud and so angry all at the same time. And you can just imagine a car going by you if you were standing on the sidewalk, and you just hear these profanities coming from inside a closed up car. And
that guy's listening to NWA.
and then I'm so angry, I start punching my steering wheel. And so here I am, honk, God damn it, honk, motherfucking cock, suck, honk, as I'm going down the road. I'm sure to anyone on the sidewalk, it was rather comical, but to me, I was just absolutely pissed. And as the years went on, I just kind of would ask myself, did I do the right thing? Could I not have done more? What was the correct course of action at that moment? And it was tough. For a long time, I've dwelled on that. And so station in your head over 10 years or so. I was just, what if I just grabbed her, thrown her in my car and driven her to a shelter? What if I had offered help to her and her mom and driven them to a shelter? I mean, what if, what should I have called the cops? I mean, anyway, and as you know, your mind wanders over the years. You say, what is the appropriate thing to do, and what should I have done, and could I have done more? And all of a sudden, I ask myself, what is it to be altruistic, and what is it to do something kind and helpful to someone, and maybe it's not so kind at the time. I mean, I take her, put her in my car. That's kidnapping. I'm not a kidnapper. That's not cool. But try to explain that to a cop, if she reported me. So anyway, that's where this documentary started, and this idea of all these dumbass sayings, that ran through my head. When you help someone, you really get more than what you give, and does it really benefit me to help someone else? And what level of help? And do I just give them money, or do I drive them to a shelter, or do I become embedded in their life and try to help them make better life choices? Anyway, so that's where the documentary started. And I thought about it for a good 10 years. So now I'm in my mid 30s, and it bothered me for such a long period of time that I decided I have to make a documentary about this act of altruism. And I started to look around, and all the documentaries I watched, they were always about the person receiving the help, right? They were the center, they were the middle, they were the central character. Rarely did I see much of anything about the people who were doing the helping. Yeah, they were secondary characters, but it was always the person who needed the help the most. That was focused on the most, I should say. So, and so I decided, well, what if I did a documentary on the act of giving and focus on the people who are doing the giving, and how does this benefit them? What really is the impact that they have? And so one day I started to tell a buddy of mine, his name was Roger. He's like, oh yeah, my folks, they do, they help people. And I'm like, what are you talking about? He's like, oh yeah, they go down to Guatemala and they do, you've heard of Doctors Without Borders. I mean, they're doctors that go to Guatemala and do major reconstructive surgeries for free on people that have been, hurt in farm accidents and whatnot. Next thing you know, I'm on a plane to Guatemala. My wife is 6 months pregnant, and I'm on a plane to Guatemala to shoot these folks for this documentary I just decided to start to make. And I got some great footage there, and I came back and I started telling another friend of mine. A friend of mine. I started doing Japanese fencing here in Milwaukee, and there's one club, and told a friend of mine, he's from Japan, and his accent is still a little thick, and we could communicate, but sometimes things got lost in translation. So I told him about my documentary, and he's like, oh yes, my doctor friend, he studies that. I'm like, what the hell are you talking about? I really thought like I didn't explain it right. And he's like, no, my friend, I'll introduce you. He studies acts of kindness in a lab. And I'm like, what? How is this possible? Okay, sure. Yeah, I want to meet him. Next thing you know, I find myself not halfway around the world talking to another Japanese doctor who's studying this in Japan. No, 2 miles from my from my house is a guy studying the acts of kindness in a lab on lab rats, because apparently lab rats are very social, just like humans. And I can't make this crap up. I'm not that creative. And I just can't believe, like, every time I start to tell people about this documentary, amazing things happen. And I wind up connecting with people who who are somehow studying this or whatever have you, and in some way, shape, or form connected to this act of giving or studying the act of giving, et cetera. I mean, it's amazing. I mean, the stories go on and on. We'd be here a lot longer than an hour if I kept going, but it's been amazing. It's just been unbelievable, you know. Spoiler alert, yes, you do get more than what you're giving. But the thing I found out is that you actually have to physically, and when I did the interview with this particular doctor in his lab, he actually said you have to. It causes the brain to fire oxytocin, and you wind up getting this the medical effects of oxytocin, which are better self-esteem, lower blood pressure, better digestion. I mean, he went on and on with all the benefits of physically helping someone. So unfortunately, writing a big check is really awesome, but for your own health, you got to physically touch somebody and help them, and to get the oxytocin to fire off and to feel those benefits. So, yeah, I've done a lot of talking. Any questions?
Well, when I was doing it, I took the philosophical side of it, and just the word altruism in itself, it seems to me to be absolutely impossible, because you do, as soon as you receive, whether it's the dopamine effects of the drug or karma is your thing, you know, you kind of always have a selfish act of why you do it.
Sure.
So my question is it even possible to be altruistic?
That is a brilliant question. And one of the other interviews I did was with a social psychologist at the University of Wisconsin. And she, who I just happened to look her up on the interwebs, and there she is. And that was her major study, was altruism. And she, when I did the interview with her, she actually said it is incredibly difficult to find a truly 100% altruistic moment where you do something and you are so anonymous for the other person. I mean, it would almost be like you put $20 in their wallet and walked away.
And never told anybody.
That you couldn't tell anyone, and you couldn't, but, you know, again, yeah. So you would not get the physical effects of touching them. You wouldn't get the mental adulation of them thanking you profusely. You would literally do something so incognito, so anonymous. That's what true altruism is. But I then asked the question, who cares?
Yeah, it's a good deed, but yeah, I think it's a bad definition of a word.
Yeah.
You know, I think it's a bad definition of the word. It's like an oxymoron almost. It's almost impossible when you really look at altruism. It's like, because that person, since you put it in their wallet, you have no clue if they just went and bought drugs and killed themselves. I mean, and they wouldn't have done it if they didn't have $20. So you really never even know.
Right. Well,
you know,
and that's the thing is, I mean, it would be a very, very odd, rare occurrence that you would put $20 in someone's wallet and they deliberately went and bought drugs deliberately to kill themselves. They may have gone to buy drugs in order to have a good time. But, you know, the reality is of course you didn't have anything to do with their downfall other than you were doing something nice, you know, trying to give them an extra $20 that they could spend however they want. But it was fascinating. And to your previous point, the economists specifically would say there is no chance for a truly altruistic moment, because even then, once you've put the money in someone's wallet, you yourself know you did something nice for them. And in your own mind, you can think about what a great person you are. And isn't that some sort of a benefit? And an economist would say all interactions are a transaction. Well, that's nice. I mean, if you want to be that cynical about it, okay, I guess.
The simplest thing that, like, it would almost have to be quick.
I'm sorry?
Oh, no, it would like have to be just simply somebody dropped like a piece of paper and you don't even realize you picked it up for them and never thought about it again. It's almost like without you thinking about it, you'd have to have an altruistic moment, but you'd never know what happened.
Right. And in that moment that that specific example that you just brought up, isn't it would just be in your inherent nature to
reactionary
pick up a piece of paper. Yeah. You either pick up the paper or you don't. It's a binary yes or no. Mm-hmm. And that's fascinating. That was part of the study that this social psychologist did. They actually hired actors to collapse on a platform, and then the actors they hired were actually they hired a company to run this study. So they hired actors. They fell on a platform of a train, and they had hired professional observers watch what happened when this person would collapse on the platform, and they would record who responded, how old they were, they thought, and then what transpired. And what they began to realize is that they had reaffirmed an earlier study, which was when you see an opportunity to help, the human mind goes through a series of questions. It's about 7 questions long. And it starts with, hey, is this person okay or no? Once they identify the problem, am I the best person to help, or is there someone else who's already moving to help? And if the answer is no, you're it, then it becomes, well, am I going to get hurt in the process of helping this person? So like when you see people who collapse, not on the platform, but rather they collapse and fall onto the railroad tracks, that becomes a very real possibility. Do I jump down there and try to help this person and I'm going to get obliterated, And the questions go on from there. I mean, some of them are even, am I going to become famous, or am I going to get money or become famous from this? And, it goes on. As the situation heightens, where danger becomes a bigger and bigger reality, like someone falling on railroad tracks, nobody's really worried until the train comes. And then you have less and less time in a very, very short window. What happens then is that the human mind then either decides, again, a very binary thing, which is they chuck the questions and they choose to act, or they chuck the questions and say, I'm out. I can't afford to get hurt. I got a wife and kid, whatever the reason, there's not a big enough payoff, whatever. The reality is that they either choose to help or they don't. And that was part of their study as well. And it was fascinating. I mean,
and speaking of that, there's an interview that you got with John Cron.
Yeah.
I was telling Tom a little bit about him.
Yeah.
Explain John's story.
Well, I met John. He's actually a member of an organization I belong to, and he's a former police officer in a little town right outside Milwaukee. And on Memorial Day, he's helping to kind of direct traffic around the little downtown area, because a lot of people kind of came in to see the parade and whatnot on Memorial Day. And all of a sudden, this family, the train tracks, this is a classic example. The arms come down, and this family had their minivan on the tracks, and they John, who's a police officer, was trying to direct them to go around the car in front of them and get off the tracks. Well, somehow they turn their wheel and the tire gets stuck in the rut of the railroad tracks. And now, I mean, it was legitimately a freight train coming, and they had seconds to act. And he gets the family out and starts to run away, and the parent says, my kid is still in the van. You can't believe this. So he runs back to the minivan, breaks the glass, gets the door open, and is can't get the seatbelt undone. And when I interviewed him, as he said, I mean, he just kind of tried to wrap up the car seat with the kid inside and hang on for dear life. And sure enough, I mean, he got absolutely creamed by a freight train, and he was thrown out of the minivan, and there was a nearby grassy field. And he says the only memory he has of the event is he's sliding on the grass. He's on his back, sliding on the grass, and he's got his hands down by his side, and he's clawing at the grass to try and stop him from sliding. And that's about all he remembers. And guy's amazing. I mean, who walks into their own ass kicking from a freight train? That's a man. However you want to phrase it, that's a real grown up right there.
Yeah, I've known John since I was a kid. We did martial arts. We were at the same martial arts school.
Oh, okay.
Since we were kids, he actually brought me into the said organization. He was the man that brought me in. So
yeah,
and knowing John, that's just who he is. He's
yeah.
And if you talk to John, he'll just say, "You know what? I was just doing my job."
That's right.
You were doing more than your job, John.
Yeah, right. And I think he's genuinely that humble of a guy.
Yeah.
And what's amazing is when I did the interview with him, he it's tough not to do that interview and not get emotional. I mean,
he doesn't remember the interview, by the way.
Oh, well,
I told him that we were doing this documentary on altruism, and he said, "Well, I've got a story to tell." I'm like, "Well,
yeah.
You already told it."
Yeah. Sadly, he is still dealing with enormous pain.
He just had surgery. He had another surgery this past Monday on his shoulder. It's like 12th, 13th surgery. So yeah, he's still racked in pain. He'll never be the same.
Yeah. It's heartbreaking because the guy, if anybody deserves to have a happy, healthy life, it's him. And that is the interesting thing about choosing to help, is that you can wind up realizing there is a dark side to helping somebody.
Yeah.
You think you're helping, and in reality, you wind up getting hurt yourself, and it's very real. And in his case, it's extremely painful. So, he started to, when we did the interview, he got he didn't get emotional about the accident. What really upset him was that for months afterwards, as he's going through his rehab, and he's obviously desk bound in the precinct, he'd have some coworkers come up and say, "Man, I don't know why you did that. I would have just let the train hit the van, and the kid probably would have been okay. And I would have just stepped away. Why'd you do that? I mean, that was dumb." And he is genuinely pissed off at those people because, of course, his response is, "I couldn't have lived with myself if I had just done nothing."
Yeah.
Yeah, the kid was all right. Molly wants to know. The kid didn't even have a scratch on it from the story you sent me.
Yeah, the kid is totally fine. So, and one could argue that the kid would have been fine, but that's a mighty big if. Who knows? But the fact that people can actually sit there and tell somebody who walked into his own ass kicking from a freight train, "Oh, that was dumb," I respectfully disagree and get the hell away from me. I'm glad that didn't happen in front of me. I would have been extremely upset with John. That's ridiculous. And it's easy to talk big right now because, I would have done the same thing. Wait till you see a 3-story freight train bearing down on you, blaring its horn, and then you say, "Yeah, I would have jumped right in there and tried."
It was a 94 car freight train, so those don't stop fast.
No, I think it stopped a half mile down the track after it hit the car. I don't know how long it took, but it's insane. I mean, that guy is a freaking hero.
Yeah.
But,
you don't know what you're going to do until you're faced with that situation. And I tell that to people all the time. When I worked at Walgreens, I know, you think Walgreens, you're a manager for Walgreens. It's nice, cushy, easy job. No, it's dangerous. I worked in the inner city. I had guns pulled on me, knives pulled on me. Like, you don't know how you're going to react in those situations until you're faced with it.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. And sadly, life is so random. You come around a corner and suddenly you're faced with a situation you are completely unprepared for.
Yeah.
Whether it's either defending yourself or helping someone else. I mean, and that was kind of a tough thing about Los Angeles, was that like, that happens a lot there. It's so random, you could be in Beverly Hills and stuff, nice parts of town that have very, very affluent people, and random stuff happens.
Yeah.
In one of my medical classes, our teacher surprised us one day with actors.
Oh, wow.
We were doing like CPR and AED drills, and all of a sudden, like, actors came in hysterically screaming about their baby or their son or whatever. And we didn't know what to do because we're just used to pumping on mannequins. And they're like, no, this is somebody's mother who's at the park, wants her kids dying. You have to be prepared for when there's hysterical other people in that situation. I thought it was just brilliant. Like, wow, yeah. We weren't expecting that. Like, I'm working on an infant and I got this lady dressed like going nuts in my face and still wanted me to do the CPR. But that's how it would be in real life. So I thought that was like, that's kind of cool.
Yeah. It's amazing. Hey, yeah. And
you can't prepare yourself for real life. Basically what I'm saying. She tried her best, but
yeah. And there are even now, there are doctors who, they've been in these exact situations that you're talking about. And somebody says, oh my God, is there a doctor here? Does anyone have any medical training? And they're just quiet. They don't say a word. And it's because their mind is running through these questions of, and they're used to dealing, many of them are used to dealing with traumatic situations and hysterical people. And they get to their questions. And if at any time they say, no, I can't help, they just don't.
I actually talked to a doctor about something like this, worked with a doctor in one of my groups. And he said that a lot of times doctors won't help because of liability. They don't want to get sued.
Right.
Because we live in such a litigious
I have that
society.
too.
Yes. And that's certainly one of the questions is how does this benefit me, or the reverse, which is how could I wind up, really getting screwed in this, anyway.
I noticed this, and when I went to medical school, they warned us about this for helping. There's something called the Good Samaritan Law, and it's got these really weird sub-laws where I'm medically, like say Chris got stung in the throat and needed a tracheotomy. Yeah. I technically know how to do it, but I've never been medically trained. I'm medically trained enough to know that I cannot do it. Right. My girlfriend, who doesn't have an ounce of medical training, is saved by the Good Samaritan Law to just shove a pen in his neck trying to save him. Right. But since I know I don't know how to do it, she doesn't know how to. It's such a weird law. But I can be there with like a magic marker and say, in between the thyroid and epithyroid, this is exactly where you want to place it.
Try the pen right here, but not too deep, because then you get to the spine, but just enough. Like, you'll feel it. You feel it when you get there. Yeah. No.
Yeah, but then if Chris dies because I did that,
right
now
that's it. You're right. It's nuts.
So it's really weird with the medical laws.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and how do you regulate someone's helpfulness? I mean, you can't. But I think really genuinely those laws were initially created for, hey, you know how to swim. There's somebody who's just offshore. You could reach out, grab them, and pull them in like a kid, something. And if you just stood there and watched the kid drown, I kind of feel like you had, an opportunity to help there, and you chose not to for a really weak ass reason. But
the closest I ever came to drowning was with a kid.
Yeah, really? Jeez.
Just on a drop off. They have incredible panic strength.
Yeah. Oddly enough, I took swim lessons all the way up through the Red Cross's junior life-saving course. And we had to go in to a pool and do what's called a carry, or you're taking someone back to shore, and you have to approach a grown adult who is a really good swimmer, who is there specifically to test you in your abilities. and they're fighting you and trying to pull you under, and you have to use these techniques. It's almost like martial arts. It's almost martial arts in water. Anyway, I'm sorry, I got a little derailed there. I didn't mean to one up you there. That was
I didn't have those martial arts strength. I was just on a drop off.
Right,
where your toes can touch, but your nose, and then a panicking kid.
Oh my God.
Kid, I gotta get back. Every step I'm going deeper.
Oh Jesus. That sounds terrifying.
Like we're all going under and I'm jumping up and throwing you into the shallow.
Yeah, right. Holy cow. That's amazing. Man.
Yeah, that was the closest. Panicking people have a lot of strength when they're about to die.
It's incredible. Yeah. So anyway, my documentary is only about halfway done. Not even. I'm still trying to work out some of the aspects of how the story will be structured. But it's a labor of love, as they say, and hopefully I get it done. I would love to see it done within the next 6 months to a year. I mean, I've said that for 3 years now, and that is the downside of having a pet project and very little money. You kind of work at it very hard, and then you go back to your day job.
Well, Tom has been working on a film with Molly for how many years now?
Oh yeah,
but Molly won't take her shirt off, something like that. What?
Yeah, she just won't do the nude scene, and I'm not doing a zombie movie without the nude scene.
Yeah. Gotcha.
I won't put my name on a zombie movie that does not have some boobs in it.
Speaking of zombie movies, I'm going to see Army of the Dead on Saturday, and I'm very excited. First time back at the theater since last February.
And you're good with no mask now. That came out today.
Yeah, today the CDC said you could finally have no masks inside, which could have said that about 6 months ago, but okay, fine.
So I had a question about that virtue. Now I can't even say it. Virtue signaling. Do you feel that like Instagrammers who have a large audience, even though they're just like faking, oh look, I have my mask on or whatever?
Yeah.
Do you think that's still good because they're sending a good message, or how do you feel about that for altruism?
Well, you know what? I certainly will confess that I've put on a mask in situations just because I want my life to be easier. I don't want to have to deal with whether you want to call them Karens or virtue shaming or whatever you call it. I kind of have this personal philosophy that I'm not out there to try to make waves. On the other hand, I get kind of sick and tired of watching people, tell me how great these masks are and tell me how great the 6 feet works. And in reality, that's just part of a narrative that, again, my parents are doctors, once you get sick with a virus, you have the antibodies and could you get sick again? Yeah, but it's even less than the first time you got sick. And anyway, so I did get a vaccine. I have worn masks and tried to give people their space merely because I began to realize that there's a whole lot of paranoia out there, and I don't need to be somebody that adds to that. I don't need to be or bring conflict to someone's life when maybe they don't need that. I can put on a mask and play ball. Try to get along with people. But yeah, I get really tired of the virtue shaming that, frankly, oh, look at me, I'm a better human being than you are because I wore 2 masks and stayed 12 feet away. And, good for you. Doesn't make me less of a human being, So I don't know. I
wear masks. I think masks work. I mean, but I don't shame anybody for not wearing a mask. It's your choice. If you don't want a mask, that's on you.
Well, that's it. And I talked with Chris about this before. If this were Ebola, I'd be crapping my pants. The fatality rate of Ebola is 100%, unless you are treated almost immediately after contracting Ebola. And you know it because you are literally bleeding out your orifices. And at that point, we have something that we really need to quarantine at a level that is beyond anything we've experienced so far. But
yeah, but with COVID, I didn't really want to get into the virus or anything, but it's not about the fatality. It's not about the death numbers. Don't think of well, it's 99% survival rate. Yeah, it's got a high survival rate, but now what they're discovering is 1 out of 3 people 6 months after they have COVID have neurological disease, because when you have COVID, it robs your body of the oxygen that it needs. So you've got permanent lung damage, you've got permanent heart damage, you've got brain damage, permanent brain damage, because your brain's not getting enough oxygen. So it leads to these lifelong ailments. You're going to have neurological disease. 1 out of 3 people are getting it 6 months after they recover from COVID. So it's not so much about numbers, it's about what's your quality of life going to be after COVID. It leaves so much. So
no,
we talked about masks. Look at China. China's been wearing masks for decades now. Look at the COVID cases in China compared to America. China's got 5 billion people, and their numbers are so much lower than America.
Right.
Why? Because they wear masks. That's the only thing you can say, is that they're very diligent with masks. They're very clean. They're very polite. They give everybody their space. It's a different culture. And
you might be thinking about Japan, but yeah, I understand where you're coming from. Here, I would caution you in this and say, I'm not looking for conflict. I'm not looking to say, I'm not a denier. I mean, I firmly believe COVID is real. I firmly believe people are dying from this, and I firmly believe there are long-lasting effects for some people. But first of all, we can't get accurate economic numbers out of China, and that's because the CCCP controls all the information that comes in and out of China. So I urge you to take anything you hear from them with a grain of salt.
Of course. But
the thing, and actually, this is something I talked with Chris about before, and yeah, we are definitely, now we're into pop culture. I mean, this is off the beaten path, but I have a friend who had COVID, never once had a symptom, and is not suffering from anything. And
I've had 14 friends died from COVID.
Right? Yes, you mentioned that before, and I get that.
It's been crazy.
And the question that I've asked myself, and again, I just kind of have one of those minds, is, how many more people have had COVID that actually have had no symptoms and no long-lasting effects of COVID?
And how many people have those people infected?
I'm sorry?
How many people do you think that the people without symptoms have infected because they didn't wear a mask or they didn't do the social distancing?
Well, that I couldn't say. I mean, to my knowledge, this person has performed all the usual preventative measures that was recommended. But my point being that if there are large numbers of people out there who have had no effects and yet have had COVID, it radically skews our understanding of just how bad COVID is, and as well, what are the long-lasting effects? What percentage of people have the long-lasting effects? So
1 out of 3 finding. 1 out of 3 people.
Well, that we know of. But if my friend is indicative of a bunch of people that have had it and they never knew about it because they don't get tested for the antibodies, you're talking about a large percentage of people, could be a large percentage of people that we would find out that the infection rate is the infection rate may be much greater, and yet the mortality rate and the long-lasting effects of it are much, much less. So,
So here, let me just give some numbers. Here's China's numbers since January 3rd, 2020. This is according to the WHO. 103,000 confirmed cases, 4,858 deaths. United States confirmed cases 33,625,613 deaths, 598,536. Whether those numbers are accurate or not, I couldn't say, but that's what's reported to the WHO.
Yeah, And I
recovered in the United States 26,666,774.
Sure. And I have to confess, I mean, from early on, from the message we got as a nation was that this is so transmittable. Basically, everyone will get this. It's that simple. Either you'll get the virus, or you will get the vaccine. One of the two, and it's an issue of time. And okay, so we'll see. I guess that's what we're left with. And then you're left. What you're left with is your own free will again.
And talking about the virus, there's so much misinformation on social media about that virus. People say this is a brand new virus. This is a brand new vaccine. mRNA vaccines have been studied extensively for 15 years. The flu vaccine everybody gets every year, that's a brand new vaccine too. The flu is constantly changing, so we get new vaccines every year that are untested. Nobody says anything about those, but when we get a new protein in a vaccine, that's the only thing that's different is the COVID protein. That's what's different in this vaccine. It's not a new vaccine. It's not, you're not being tested for anything. There's so much misinformation going on.
Well, I just today I saw an interview with a doctor in front of it was a city council, and the doctor goes on and on about how the vaccine, when they were testing the vaccine on animals, it was actually killing the animals, and so they stopped testing it on animals. I've seen another report that said the side effects of the vaccine on pregnant women has resulted in some pretty horrible things that have happened to either the women or the baby or both. And
every vaccine has side effects. Every vaccine. There's not a vaccine in existence that doesn't have these side effects.
Oh, okay. But my point being that there seems to be a double-edged sword, and while there is some misinformation, there also seems to be a great deal of pressure brought to trivialize the effects of the vaccine. And anyway, look, I didn't think this interview was going down this path when we first started.
We never know where this conversation is going to go.
That's fine.
Tom,
that's fine. I don't. If you want to continue to talk about it, that's fine.
Hey, I just got to your guys' way. Go for it.
We're gonna get banned on Facebook and YouTube.
Yeah, right. Yes.
Wow. Tom, change the subject. Tom, change the subject. I'm gonna get hate messages now.
I'm the only one who's not. I just sat back like a good boy. Hey, let these guys duke it out. I'll just listen.
Open. Oh boy.
Hey, isn't that something that you're supposed to learn as a Freemason, to sit back and listen?
You should.
To give good counsel and to keep your actions within the due bounds of reason. That is, I think, where we can all agree. We have been sorely lacking in reason. We do it. You know what? It is time for serious minds to take over. These children, many of whom are in their 50s, 60s, 70s, need to go. They need to retire and go wherever children of that age go. I don't know if it's Disneyland. I don't know what no knock on Disneyland. Please don't call me Disney. I know you hate that. But
great, now we're gonna get banned from Disney.
Yeah, we're gonna get banned from Disney, right?
We never had a chance on Disney, Chris.
That's true.
We never had a chance.
True. I applied to be goofy, and they said I wasn't goofy enough. But the reality is that I am so sick of children coming up with either something, some rationale like, oh, you want people to die from this? You want to just, you don't care about people? No, that is so childish. I don't even know where to begin to address that argument. You need to go, and the adults need to take over now. And I think, sadly, we give, if I can really piss off every possible group out there that might watch this, I think children.
We already have.
I think children are given far too much voice right now. See this. This comes from experience. It's time for reasonable, experienced people to take over.
Yeah, Tom.
This is bullshit.
I don't have any
experience.
Oh, clearly he colored. No, I'm talking about the gray hair. Not the
hair.
fact that it's a beard; it's the gray hair.
Molly claims I got a bunch.
Well,
I keep it short.
People who are older have an affinity for history. So much of this was already done, tried once before. So a lot of the messaging you see has been done before, and I just think it's ridiculous. We need to have real people. He has plenty of gray. Yeah, Molly weighing in, letting us know just how much gray Tom has.
That means I can talk. I'm an adult.
Nice. Yes, exactly. But anyway, but any reasonable, experienced person wouldn't touch a public service job right now if you tripled the salary. Who signs up for this? The second you take a stance, you're torn down from some opposing viewpoint. If I go out on the street right now and I hand out $100 bills to people, some idiot would walk up and tell me how I'm ruining America.
It's social media. It's social media. Social media was the best thing that happened to us, and it by far the worst thing that's happened to society. It is horrible.
Yeah, it certainly has given a whole lot of loudmouths the bulletproof vest they have been seeking. Because I mean that literally. Don't call me all you anti-gun nuts. I don't want to, But the reality is they love having that screen between them and who they're offending.
They have this false sense of anonymity.
That's right.
I think they can't be touched. They're anonymous.
And while I would never say I'm one of the few people who can take criticism. I know when I'm wrong, sure, go ahead, kick me in the shin. But don't give me a summary execution. If I make a small mistake or I misspeak and then I correct myself, I deserve a kick in the shin, not a summary execution. These idiots were, you should get fired. You should never work again. You should have to live under a bridge like the troll you are.
Well, yeah, if you say the wrong thing on social media, some idiot troll is going to contact your employer.
Well, you can say it in the past 10 years ago now.
Yeah. Well, look at James Gunn. James Gunn made jokes that might have been in poor taste today, but 10 years ago they were funny jokes, and he got fired from directing Guardians of the Galaxy.
Yep.
But he was rehired, of course. But yeah, I mean, it's so dumb. It's so dumb. People will sort through and sift through decade of your social media posts, and if they find something they don't like, they will make it their mission to ruin your life.
Yeah. And as if there are these knights riding around on horses looking for wrongs to right, and like they clearly, as soon as they find some wrong to right, that's it. It's go time. You gotta suit up and go to war. It's like, no, you kind of should just say, hey man, you gotta kind of rein it in a little bit and then move on. It's not worth going to World War III over, but that's why I do like Freemasonry. I think it really does gives you a set of guidelines that have really been tried and tested over hundreds of years. Look, man, I think you're headed down the wrong path. And as you're, Chris, buddy, I kind of think you're heading down the wrong path. I urge you to consider what you're about to do,
Yeah, no, of course, as Masons, we have guidelines on social media.
Sure. And some people actually follow them.
Yeah.
But in all reality, that's I can talk to you like that, and because we're in the craft, it means something.
Yeah.
Right? Like I genuinely feel like I am my brother's keeper, and so if I think Chris is about to really stub his toe or worse, I owe it to him to say, hey man, it's not that I disagree with you, but I urge you to consider the ramifications of what you're about to do. Have you thought this through? And Chris, being the good man that he is and always wanting to be a better man he wants to be a better man today than he was yesterday, he would listen to me. And he may dismiss me at the end, but at least he'll give me a moment and think about it.
You deserve that.
and as do you. But I look at what's going on in social media. None of that occurs. There's no, hey, let's take a moment here and think about this. It's, you're a racist, homophobe, xenophobe. You deserve to die and go to hell. I mean, I've seen some of that nonsense. It's like, no, you're not perfect either, buddy.
I'm not a fan of cancel culture. I mean, if people do bad things, they should be called out about it. But I'm not a fan of cancel culture. Never have been.
Well, and there's no room for redemption there, which is so much about filmmaking, right?
Yep.
It's all, redemption is one of the great human attributes. We can redeem ourselves.
Ooh, I got a good question about that.
Even canceled. I mean, there's no room for redemption then.
Do you think Robert Downey Jr. would have had the redemption story if you shifted his life, the needle of his life, 20 years to the future? Where he did all his drugs and partying and shit and wrote tweets and did all the crap and had that. Do you think he could have made the comeback the way he did Iron Man?
I'm going to step out on a limb and say absolutely. And the reason why is that he did all that stuff to himself.
Mm-hmm.
The guys in the NFL who get caught beating the snot out of their girlfriend, even though the girlfriend was clearly the antagonist, man, you are an elite athlete. You are one of 1,100 guys to hold a job in the NFL. And you smack your girl around, it's awfully tough to come back from that. But Robert Downey Jr. did, he did drugs and, did what he did, but he kept trying to become better. He kept trying to come back. And,
I don't think there was ever a time that he wasn't a good actor. He's a good actor.
It was clear early on he was amazing.
Yeah, he just, he had a drug problem. He never beat his girlfriend or anything like that, or gotten in trouble.
Not to my knowledge. Yeah. And not to my even today in the Me Too movement, where you're hearing about all sorts of guys.
Yeah.
I haven't heard any of that about him. Now.
Yeah.
What really got me thinking about this today was Ellen her show being canceled. And I really thought about Ellen today, and I'm like, man, in like the mid to late 90s, she was a pioneer, like the first LGBT person. She got her own show. She was like, half people loved her, half people hate her. She should be on LGBTQ money, right? For what she did at the time. And then stuff happened on her show and they executed her instantly. And don't even care about, they've come that far because of her. And it was stuff she didn't even control. And they're just looking to slay every giant.
Yeah. No, for sure. I mean, there you got multiple issues going on there, which is, of course, when you reach the mountaintop, where else do you go other than you defend the mountaintop, because everyone will come to try and tear you down, including the people who put you there, which is the press, of course. If the press elevated her to that, money status, they're the ones that are now, out there to tear her down. Now, I think what happens, like so many other times with politicians and other actors, she'll go away for 2 to 5 years, and then she'll say she's changed. She realized the error of her ways, and they'll reboot a show. It'll be called DeGeneres instead of Ellen, and she'll get to come back and but I mean, just because she's an a-hole.
She is not.
Don't call me telling me that I'm some sort of. I had a gay roommate for over a year in Los Angeles. Don't tell me I'm a homophobe. I got a gay uncle. Just stop. But the fact is
So this brings up a question that I have. I actually posed this
question. Off on a rant.
I actually posed this question on Facebook.
But you got tired in the middle of it.
Can you tell I'm tired of this nonsense? I can't. It just.
Joel wasn't expecting this kind of conversation.
Why did we do this? You told me this would be fun. We'd have a laugh.
I have a question. I want to pose you guys. I asked this on Facebook a couple of days ago because I have a playlist that I listen to at the gym with Marilyn Manson on. I really like his new album.
I'm having a blast.
I get a lot of strange looks from the soccer moms at the gym because, Marilyn Manson is a creep. Big surprise there, right? Yeah. But can you separate the art from the artist?
Well, that's a great question.
It's an eternal
at a certain point, you either choose to or you choose not to, right? I mean, everybody's got.
If you're gonna be upset about bad behavior, you can't be a fan of David Bowie, you can't be a fan of Mick Jagger, you can't be a fan of Charlie Chaplin,
Michael Jackson. I don't want to hear you
so many
tapping your feet to Billie Jean when that comes on.
You can go back in time. You could say, well, Muhammad Ali was a womanizer. You could say Frank Lloyd Wright left his wife and 7 kids for his wife's friend who lived down the street and was married to another guy. I mean, I still look at Frank
Luther King Jr. had a lot of prostitutes too.
Who? Sorry?
Yeah.
Martin Luther King Jr. had a bunch of prostitutes. Okay. Junior.
Richard Pryor, who was a Freemason. I mean, his womanizing is legendary, and
David
so
Bowie, sex offender. Mick Jagger brought a teenage girl on tour with him.
Bill Cosby. I mean,
oh my God, Cosby.
It's tough for me to look at a building. I got to tell you, I'm so in awe of Frank Lloyd Wright. I really you cannot walk into one of his buildings and not think to yourself, you know what, there has to be a greater power.
I went to Frank Lloyd Wright Middle School.
Oh, yeah?
He designed the school, right?
Oh, no.
Ugliest building ever. It's in West Dallas. Ugliest building you'd ever see.
Well, I had the pleasure of going into the Johnson Wax building.
That's a cool building.
It is breathtaking. You cannot stand there and think to yourself, yeah, this is just some interesting elements thrown together. No, this guy was from another planet. This guy was touched by something greater than just natural born talent that was nurtured over time. There's something to it that's otherworldly, and yet he was such an a-hole. He is such a jerk. Like, I can't walk through the building and not be reminded, did he design this when he was cheating on his wife and running around the country with his mistress? It seems like the guys who have reached greatness are greatly flawed. I was hoping Tiger was my golden child. I'm not much older than Tiger, so when Tiger set all those records, there it is.
It was the ugliest freaking building. There were hardly any windows in it. It was so dark and dingy in there.
Yeah, Frank Lloyd.
So you guys could
Juvie Hall.
Oh God, it felt like a jail.
Yeah, it's a juvenile.
Yeah, it's. The guys who reach greatness are so greatly flawed, and Tiger was a guy. I wanted him to obliterate every record and just sail off into the sunset and be that good guy. And then we find out he's banging your grandma, the Perkins chick, professional porn stars. He's got girls all over the country. Yeah. Okay, fine. And then I thought, Ryan Braun, local golden boy. And then you find out not only was he juicing, he went after that poor guy who carried his sample. Mm-hmm. They went after him with a full-on character assassination.
Yeah.
Full on. And then he admits, it was hysterical. He comes out in the same meeting. He says, yeah, I'm sorry. I'd just like to move on now. I'd like to talk about something else. Like, whoa. You were saying this guy who carried your sample was wildly incompetent. You destroyed this guy in the press. And now you'd like to move on? I think he might have a few words for you. Mm-hmm. But I've never seen or heard from that guy since. But anyway. Not Ryan Braun, the other testing guy. So
I'm sure just going to move on.
Yeah. No, it seems like every time I get my hopes up for a golden boy, Robin Yount. That's it. I don't think I've ever heard one negative thing about Robin Yount. That's it.
His lemonade sucks.
Oh, well, hot take. Hot take from Tom.
got no good lemonade, and he's got too much sugar in it.
Dead piss to my plant. No, I actually like this lemonade. So I
get some at the fair every year. We go.
It's good. I like it. Yeah, apparently Tom
it goes to charity too. You know what you pay.
When I see Robin Young, I'm going to send him your way.
So you guys don't know good lemonade.
All right. Well, fair enough. Yeah. So
it's for charity, Tom.
That's fine. I'll show you at State Fair where to get the good lemonade.
Leave Robin Young alone. Oh, speaking of State Fair, it is going on this year, so
it is.
You will be there.
Yes, if you're watching this and you're out of the state of Wisconsin, you should come to our state fair. It's quite lovely. It's huge. So same with
I have no idea how it's going to work this year, but you know.
Yeah.
It'll be fine.
Thanks.
I don't know.
So you're a real estate agent. Tell us about the real estate market.
Oh yeah, sure. Thanks. The right now is we are what is it? May 15th? What is it?
13th.
What's the date?
13th.
May 13th.
Thursday the 13th.
2021, and let me tell you, it is absolute pandemonium out there. I teamed up with another agent in our office, and he had a listing in a little town called West Dallas. It's part of Milwaukee. Again, for anyone outside the city or the state.
I grew up in Meth Dallas.
The dirty Stallis.
Wow, we're on fire. This is great. He had this listing, nice little 3-bedroom ranch. We got 41 offers in 2 days. I told my boss, and he initially didn't believe me, and I showed him the pictures, the stacks of paperwork.
You probably had a really nice basement for a crack house.
Yeah.
No, stop.
I'm teasing. West Dallas isn't that bad. West Dallas gets a bad rap, but it is not a bad city.
No,
I grew up there.
House was lovely. It really was very nice.
I lived up the road from Jeffrey Dahmer, but that's okay. That's okay. I don't hold that against West Dallas.
Oh my God.
It was not his type. He didn't do anything to me.
Right. Oh, good. That's good, because if he did do something to you, you might have been in a vat right now. Or
I could
back
be.
then. So.
I could be, but you know, I was a short, fat white kid, not his type.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah. Well, I don't know.
Real estate we were talking about.
I won't sell you Jeffrey Dahmer's house. I don't know. I guess that's where I could go.
I have some bricks of his apartment building.
Do you?
I do.
Excellent. Nice.
He's still pissed off that he wasn't hot enough for Jeffrey Dahmer.
We're definitely.
I've had so many run-ins with Jeffrey Dahmer over the years. Oh God! My best friend lived like up the road from his apartment building. So I went to school downtown Milwaukee. When I went to college, I had to take the bus. I rode the same bus he rode to his job at the chocolate factory.
Wow.
Working at Walgreens one day on 76 and Capitol, some little old lady, 175-year-old woman comes in with her little shopping cart bag trolley thing. She turns a picture in. She wants to get a copy, a print from a print. You remember pictures?
Yeah.
The pictures, remember what those are?
Yeah.
This lady comes in to get a copy, right? And my photo clerk turns white. She comes back to the office where I am, and she hands me the picture. She's like, this lady wants to get a copy of this picture. I'm like, okay, we'll go ahead and do it. We'll look at it. It's Dahmer's mugshot. It's his original mugshot stolen from the jail. So we call the cops. This woman's grandson was a janitor. He stole the mugshot, wanted to get copies of it to sell to make money. So I'm sitting there holding Jeffrey Dahmer's photo. Like fucking Dahmer is all up in my grill. Like I used to hang out bars he hung out at when he was murdering people.
Yeah,
man, he had every opportunity to get you.
He had every opportunity, but he didn't. He passed.
That's right.
You're salty, man.
He had the
I don't know. A little self-esteem issue there. It wasn't good enough for Dahmer.
So did you actually ever run into him or no?
Probably. I don't remember him, but I have no doubt that I did. I lived like up the block from his grandma when he lived there.
Wow. For those of you who are under the age of 40, Jeffrey Dahmer was a serial killer in Milwaukee, and he ate them and also dissolved their bodies in a big 55-gallon drum of acid. So
after he banged them,
visit Milwaukee.
It's Milwaukee, yeah. Wisconsin is weird.
Come
It's
for the
weird.
fun, stay for a meal. Yeah, no, I don't know. We got to put a slogan on that.
Ed Gein, Jeffrey
Yeah, Ed
Dahmer.
Gein. Yeah, the Texas Chainsaw Massacre.
There
Yeah,
was-
based
there
on
was-
one of our other serial killers.
There's a story that we've been talking about a lot lately on the radio program about a Milwaukee mortician that worked for the city morgue, the coroner. This was back in the 80s. She had a collection. She chopped off men's genitalia and collected them in mayonnaise jars. She had quite a collection before she was caught.
Wow.
So that's Wisconsin for you.
Oh, and then we also produced Joe McCarthy. Yeah, we're on fire. We're at Wisconsin. Yeah.
no good.
And Liberace
Liberace. Well,
Liberace was here.
from West Dallas.
Liberace was amazing.
From West Dallas.
Yes, that's right. Oh, that's right. Yeah. He was amazing.
Oh yeah.
Tom,
Wow.
Tom, help us out here.
My
Well,
grandpa went sledding with Liberace
Really?
My grandpa, my grandma used to sing with Liberace. My grandma was a
Oh,
in
wow.
Waukesha.
Oh, that's cool.
Such a small world.
Is that all your grandpa did with Liberace?
You know what? Now that he's got Alzheimer's, I might be able to get the truth out of him.
Does he have a shoebox of old pictures that you can look through? Maybe?
Yeah, I gotta get a hold of that. He'll never know. He won't know who I am when I'm walking in there.
There you go. I'm sure those pictures would be worth a lot of money.
Hey, Grandpa, you were handsome enough for Dahmer.
Yeah, this show is completely gone off the rails.
It always is.
Well,
Oh, yeah.
my story about real estate was that we got these 41 offers, and what we found out was that there is just an insane amount of buyers out there that, frankly, some of them are just throwing in the towel and they're going back to renting. And it's for a number of reasons. One is incredibly cheap money, so low interest rates. We also have older folks who they're doing what's called aging in place. In other words, they're modifying their house so that they can stay and stay there for as long as humanly possible. Whereas just a few years ago, they would be looking to move on into a retirement community. So of some kind. So
Do you have to tell people if the house is haunted?
that's the industry joke is, do you have to actually disclose if the house is haunted? And
Because Tom and Molly just bought a house and their house is haunted.
oh, really? Well, did they get charged extra for the ghosts, or was it the same
No, I think we got a deal on him. I'm a tough negotiator.
for one, or Baker's
Definitely
dozen?
two
I
for
don't
one.
know. Yeah, gotcha. You know what? I couldn't even tell you. I'm sure there's a rule in there somewhere that I will say, in all seriousness, if someone has passed away in the house, there are some religions that really take that kind of thing
Oh, sure.
really seriously, and you do have to disclose that type of thing because they can't, for religious reasons, buy the house, and I certainly don't begrudge them that. It's amazing. I had a whole life before real estate. I mean, I've been in the business 6-7 years now, and the fact is I kind of thought real estate agents were like used car salesmen. I didn't understand what they did. I thought it was kind of, a whole lot of sizzle and not a lot of steak. And now that I'm in the business, I would never ever buy or sell a piece of real estate without an agent. I just because, and it's not me towing some, I'm not some toady for the National Association of Realtors. It really is that complex, and you could really get your ass in a bind legally if you're not crossing all the T's, dotting all the I's. You can get sued in Wisconsin. You can get sued up to 6 years after you've sold your house if that doesn't keep you up at night, yeah, that should keep you up at night. But
Wow.
I'm sorry. I just noticed the comments section. Sorry. The previous homeowner told us about it after we bought the house and we're already aware of our bonus tenants. Nice. Do they have names? That's what I want to know.
What are their names, Tom? Did you name them?
Yep. Tommy and the lady in white.
Tommy
I know the lady in white's not nice.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
That's
Tommy
amazing.
is what they told us, the people who lived there before. The little boy. I wasn't supposed to tell the names until after the people were, so hopefully they're not. Because I guess there's mediums coming or something. They're coming back on Saturday to rid the house.
Yeah, I'm supposed to come with. I don't know if I could make it though. Is that guy coming? Did they confirm it?
They just said
He was really being kind of sketchy about it. It's like, well, you got to tell me more about this house before I agree.
Really?
Yeah. Apparently, it's a big to-do. But if they confirm, then they confirmed. We're talking about a paranormal group that went in to investigate Tom's house.
And what were the results? What did they find?
What did they find, Tom? Well,
you're on the team.
There's been all kinds of weird activity going on at Tom's house. We've had a wireless camera set up there for 2-3 weeks now. Probably longer than that, 4 weeks, something like that. And there's just been a lot of weird activity going on.
Gotcha.
Lights going on and off, loud noises happening.
Wow.
Weird stuff, really weird stuff.
Wow.
And it's a really weird basement. Like, I can't understand why the basement is set up the way it is. There's this one room with like a half a door. And there's this is the boiler room. There's a bench set up for people to like lounge. But who's going to go downstairs in the basement and just lounge around and, hang out in the
lounge or get chained to?
There are chains. There's chains down there.
Oh, we'll see you bury the real story here. I mean,
through the whole basement, like everything is outlined with this glow in the dark spray paint. Like the door frames, like somebody just went with a can of spray paint and like sprayed the outline of the door, which is weird. It's weird. Tom's got
That's creepy as hell.
Yeah. It's a weird house, man.
I thought I would never see this.
It's a nice house.
I want to list your house.
It is. It's a nice house. I never. You go into the basement, and the basement is just weird. I don't understand.
Wow.
But whatever.
Wow.
Hopefully they can get rid of the spooks and the specters.
That's amazing.
Definitely.
Interesting. So how does one go about getting rid of spooks and specters? Do you call in a priest, or you don't, or what? You burn the house down, or?
I'm new to this group, so I guess they have a psychic or a medium that's going to come and convince.
Ron said he won't be there.
Ron won't be there. No, Ron's got a DJ gig.
Holy crap! I just looked up our house. It's up about $30,000.
No, probably because everybody's talking about it.
Yeah.
I know what your angle is now, Tom. I know what your angle is.
Are you looking at Zillow? Is that what you're doing?
Yeah.
Of course.
And in this market, we'll probably get 50 on it. God, come on. And it's on it.
I'll tell you, in all seriousness, we're watching prices go up so fast, so far. Someone in our office just was trying to write an offer on a house, and they found out kind of through the grapevine. I mean, which, by the way, that you're not allowed to discuss actual numbers on a house until after it closes. I mean, it's an ethical thing. And anyway, it found out this house was listed for $399 in Wauwatosa. It needed a whole bunch of updating. Again, for those of you outside the state, Wauwatosa is near West Dallas. And anyway, they got 2 offers that were roughly $100,000 over asking.
Oh my God.
That is absolutely mind blowing. So for you people on the coasts, imagine getting $500,000 more than your asking price. So it's about the equivalent. So
that is crazy.
Yeah. So
we're in a weed alone. We can't sell for a couple years yet.
Okay. Well, yeah, it's right. right now, if you have a house to sell, this is the place. There, we actually had a couple of buyers, two couples, that realized they could sell their house for so much more than what they owed. They're going to go rent for a year or two, and then when the market corrects, they're going to then go and buy. You're talking about a $50,000 to $100,000 swing when they sell, and a $50,000 to $100,000 swing when they buy. I mean, this is life-changing money. And if you can afford to do that, and you're willing to put up with the nonsense of renting, it's not that bad. If you find the right place, it's just like, it can be just like a house with a lot less work. But it's amazing that we're at where we're at, and it's a lot of it has to do with low interest rates and a lot of buyers coming into the market and a lot of sellers who won't sell. So,
yeah, awesome.
Stop looking at Zillow. I actually found a house 3 doors down from where my folks live. I'm not lying to you. They say this house is worth $890,000. On a good day, that house might sell for $375,000. I have never seen a Zestimate that was $500,000 off, but there it was. So, if you want to know what your house will really sell for, I'll tell you. I'll run a market analysis and I'll tell you, and then you'll have a good sense of confidence. But anyway, not that Zillow is horrible. Don't call me Zillow. I don't want to hear from you.
Great. There goes another sponsor.
There's a sponsor. Yeah. Oh crap. There it is. Yeah. Let's count all the groups that we pissed off this evening. All right. So the whole LGBTQ community.
No, it's easier to count the groups we haven't.
Yeah. Who's left? Who's left? The anti-gunners. How about that? I like guns. There you go. There it is. That was the last one.
There goes all of our sponsors.
All right, we got them all.
There it is. Sure. Yeah. So anyway.
Yep.
Well, I suppose it's time to wrap things up.
Yeah.
Sure. Joel, thanks for coming on. It's been
thank you guys. I really appreciate it. Thanks.
We always
fun. So
we never know what the hell we're going to talk about on this show. And
that's right. Yeah, we've covered a lot of ground, unpacked a lot, and yeah. No, I thank you so much. This was a lot of fun, and I hope you guys had fun. And
I had a blast.
I had a lot of fun. Did you have fun, Tom?
Good.
I had a blast. Awesome.
Thanks.
That's what matters. All right. Thanks everybody for watching. Tune in next week. We will have another guest. Don't know who, but it'll be someone. Have a good week.